News Radio 600 Kogo, welcome to your weekend. Great to have you along. I'm Sully. It is San Diego Business Weekend. Christina Gustin joins us this morning to kick us off, along with Tom Del Beccaro, financial and political analyst. Mike Hess from Mike Hess Brewing is going to join us, and Mayor Faulconer today, because San Diego Business Weekend is on the air. Okay, I got my hand slapped last week by little Tommy Sablon and Rusty Nails because I didn't promote our weekend show enough. So join us tonight on KUSI at 5 p.m. For On the Air with Sully, Little Tommy, and Rusty Nails. We're going to have Eddie Papani from Rock 105.3 is going to join us today. But if you want to see what an inside look of being on the radio is like, then join us this evening, and we'll get that started. I wanted to go through a couple of things. Look, we had, if you would have asked me Wednesday of this week what I thought with respect to how this market is going to be going, I would have said to you, we're going to see a retest in this market. We're going to see us test back probably to 21.5, 22,000, because that's what happens in these things. We have these, I beg your pardon, we have these double bottoms before we do a recovery. And then we keep on seeing, we saw the crazy thing that happened with oil, and I will explain that again a little bit later today, but it was largely psychological. But if you really think in terms of this, when this coronavirus crisis eases, there's no doubt the economy is going to recover. At the same time, we've never seen a Fed Reserve pack so much stimulus in at such a velocity. So you really can't compare this with what we've had happen before, not only in the economy, but also on Wall Street. So look at some of the crazy things that happened this week. The House approved $484 billion. It was a top-off. They wanted to top off the SBA program, which was fantastic, by the way. It brought the entire price tag to $833 billion of stimulus. Now, as I keep saying, there's only three things that can happen when you have stimulus like that. Number one, when you're spending money like that or printing money like that, you either have to raise taxes, or you have to stop spending money, or you have to monetize your debt by doing quantitative easing. In other words, repurchasing or repo, T-bills, T-bonds, T-notes, driving the price up, taking the profits to pay for it. That's how it works. Seems like you're cheating? Yeah, you're cheating. Be called insider trading anywhere else. And that's what quantitative easing, how it works. That's how repurchases work. And every country does it. And you hear me say all the time that we're the least dirty shirt in the hamper. But that's how they're going to have to pay for this, because otherwise we risk hyperinflation with all this money in the market. And we also risk, devaluing our dollar, which, is good in some terms, but not so great in other terms. So back to what this recovery could possibly look like. And as I said, you got a V-shaped recovery. I think we'll see a V-shaped recovery in the stock market. I think we're seeing it. I mean, look, if you really want to hear how the stock market did this week, think in terms of where we've been over the last 12 months, right? I mean, the two biggest questions that are asked of me all over is what shape will this economic recovery take, and the stock market's on a roller coaster. What's it going to look like? You realize that over the last 12 months, the Dow is only down 7% now for 12 months. S&P is down 1% for 12 months. NASDAQ is up 9% over 12 months. This is after all three indices dropped between 29% and 30% in just 6 weeks, after hitting all-time highs on February 17th and February 19th. So let's get back to this recovery here real quick, and I'm going to talk to Christina Gustin. The recovery for me, the worst case would be an L-shaped recovery, which is down and then flat. We don't want to see that. And look, unfortunately, this economy went down a heck of a lot faster than it's going to come back. As I've been saying this last week, you're not going to flip on a light switch. It's going to be like a sunrise. That's how this economy is going to open. Now, California should recover faster. San Diego should recover faster. LA should recover faster. We've got weather working in our favor, for one. Number two, our demographics better than people in the Northeast. We're younger here in the West Coast. But LA and San Diego rely on tourism, which is not going to recover as quickly. And then there's the concern that the return of commuting workers from Mexico who are active in the hospitality and construction industries, that's a rough one. Also, what about the logistics in bringing a bunch of people together for conventions, right? I mean, what's that going to look like? I've said this for a couple of weeks. Let's say they give us the go-ahead, and everything's great, we're good to go, you're safe, and it's May 15th. Are you really going to go out there shoulder to shoulder just with somebody, right? And the economies of scale prevent restaurants from doing that. I love the folks that'll email us, well, restaurants just do 50% capacity. We'll all be safe. How do you think restaurants going to pay its bills with 50% capacity? It's not. Restaurants going to be out of business in 6 weeks. So those are the things that we're battling with this week. And not necessarily a battle. I just think that it's interesting that suddenly we go from panic retail shopping during the grocery apocalypse to now, is it safe to go outside, to, even though they say it's safe, I'm not feeling it's safe. That's a tough one to go. Here to talk about that and more, my good friend Christina Gustin, UBS Financial, RKG Wealth Management. And I should disclose that she is my money manager as of this week, and I have referred her a lot of folks. I can't tell you who they are, but she's got a pretty impressive roster of people, and she joins us to take some time out of her weekend again. Christina, thanks so much for swinging by again today. How are you?
Hi there. Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So what is your top-down look at this week? You know, I expected a big pullback this week. You know, we saw some, you know, we saw that falterall with the oil contracts, which I don't want to spend a lot of time on because I don't want to get in the weeds in it. But, you know, right after the oil recovered, we had a terrific day Wednesday and then basically went sideways for 2 days, even after the big recovery. What do you think's going on here? Is this the consolidation? Is this the pullback we were looking at? We're just not going to go as high as fast? Or what do you think's going on in the general market?
So it's interesting. All of the technical indicators still are pointing to what you alluded to earlier, that we could certainly test the lows again. That's certainly a possibility. And if we look at history, it's definitely something that's happened in the past. What happened this week, we started off really optimistic about good news on a drug from Gilead, that people were having success theoretically treating coronavirus patients. That didn't turn out to be the case, according to another study that was unofficially released. So now that optimism went away. There was all of the oil volatility that you talked about, which was historic. Prices went negative, which obviously nobody saw that coming.
Yeah.
And then we had the $484 billion of stimulus approved. So lots of ups and downs. What you haven't heard so much about is that it's still earnings season. We have about 30% of companies that have reported first quarter results as of the end of this week. Some of them have exceeded, on average, by about 6% their lowered projections. So that's positive. Although the numbers are really negative, they weren't as bad as they were expected to be. So that's seen as a positive. Obviously, there's a huge difference in different sectors. You had positive, think about it, healthcare, staples, and technology, and obviously very negative numbers in energy and industrials and materials. One other thing I would point out that I think is a longer-term positive is that there seems to be everyone's looking for bottoming in the stock market. There seems to be bottoming in the economy right now. So as everyone has been locked down in their homes, we've seen these rapid declines in all these different industries, but not known how to quantify how bad is it. Everyone wants to know how bad it is, right? So now we're getting numbers. We have these real-time weekly updates, so we can quantify consumption's down overall in the U.S. about 25%, obviously worse in industries like hotels and restaurants. But some aren't as bad as we thought they were going to be. Industrial activity seems to be down around 30%. Steel production, for example, down 35%. But that trend has been in place for a couple weeks now. So that's helping us quantify and understand how bad things are going to get. And we have, I think Georgia is the first state that's about to open up. So we're going the other direction now. So that's a positive.
Does that mean that we overreacted in the beginning with our projections? I mean, the market baked in an awful lot. I mean, 30%. was a drop in based upon fear. The market baked in a big death number. The market baked in worse revenue numbers. What does that mean going forward, or is it just anyone's guess at this point?
I don't think we have the clarity, because the other missing factor is how long is all of this slowdown? What's the time factor? How long is it going to last? And how slowly will the comeback occur? I hear a lot about the V-shape or the U-shape, or God forbid the L-shape recovery. I heard a new one this week. They're talking about the square root-shaped recovery. So you have this V,
yeah, that's
but you don't come
the lazy
all the way
L.
back.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
That's
like
true.
that?
It is. It's true. It's the lazy L. I mean, look at, I still think that the stock market, first of all, there's so much seller's fatigue, Christina. I just think that the seller's fatigue for hardcore investors is going to come back. I think the big question, though, for all of us, and I think this is the thing that you and I talk about all the time, is that the stock market's not the economy. And we've got to be careful to think about that, because only, 45% of us participate in the stock market, yet 100% of us participate in the economy, and that's where it goes. Christina, thank you so much. Christina Gustin, UBS Financial, RKG Wealth Management. I trust her. I trust all my friends trust her. You can trust her too. And by the way, she is not a paid sponsor, which I think says the most about how I feel about her. She's the smartest person I know when it comes to finance. So check her out. If you want her information, you can always send me an email at kogo.com, keyword Sully. All right, Tom Del Beccaro, author of The Divided Era, who writes for Fox Business, going to join us on what's the best way to open this economy and how it's going to affect the election coming up. It's San Diego Business Weekend. I'm Sully. It's News Radio 600 Kogo. News Radio 600 Kogo. Sully here. Welcome to your weekend. Great to have you along. Catch me every morning on the San Diego Morning News with Ted and LaDonna, then over at Good Morning San Diego on KUSI. Speaking of KUSI, myself, Little Tommy, Rusty Nails have our On the Air show tonight at 5 p.m. on KUSI. Come check us out. Got Eddie Papani joining us from Rock 105 tonight. Give you kind of a look at what it's like behind the scenes to be in radio in San Diego all these years. Then, of course, Big Biz Show with Russ T. Nails and myself on nationwide, coast to coast, every night on national television and national radio. And a frequent guest and contributor and close friend, Tom Del Beccaro, is joining us here momentarily. Tom Del Beccaro, of course, is an attorney. He's an historian. He's an author. He's a columnist. He wrote the book, The Divided Era. He runs the website Political Vanguard. He's also a frequent contributor to Fox Business, Fox, and many other national periodicals. And he's also a practicing attorney. Tom, thanks so much for swinging by. So here's the question for all of us here in the state of California. I personally think that Gavin Newsom does nothing but give political speeches. Every time he opens up his mouth. I think Gavin Newsom is running for something, potentially president, every time he opens his mouth. I think Nathan Fletcher here in our town is doing the same thing without giving us any salient information and not really thinking about boots on the ground, blue-collar workers, nor small business people. You're in California. Talk to us about what's your top-down approach on how our state government is handling things and what needs to be done to open up this economy.
Well, overall, you can see that Gavin Newsom doesn't really seem to be in charge of everything. You look at, he still wants basically a shutdown, but you see counties like Napa opening up slowly. The golf courses are open. They're allowing certain businesses to undertake their jobs more than they were before. You have other places where the similar things happening, and yet then you have Los Angeles with Eric Garcetti, and of course Los Angeles is bigger than 42 states, Los Angeles County.
That's right.
And he says no live events through the rest of the year. So Gavin Newsom doesn't seem to have a full grasp of California.
Right.
I was stunned when he came out with his group of people about reopening the economy. Now, it looks good on paper. You invite all these people with various experiences in, but in the fine print, it said they were only going to meet a couple of times a month. And I'm thinking, well, how long do you plan on doing this?
Yeah, right.
And shouldn't they be meeting in a marathon way right now? As for the political aspect of Newsom, he's buddied up to Donald Trump because the state needs a bailout. Yeah. We've talked about this. The weak California economy, if they California government spend $450 billion a year. They're essentially taking 3 months of tax revenue and slicing that dramatically. And that's $100 billion. So maybe the losses are 60 billion, 70. Where do counties and cities make that up? So I give him a mixed grade, mainly because, look, this is not an easy thing to do. I disagree with the approach, but I'm not one who blames, since this is a brand new thing, we've never done this before. I'm not someone who is overly harsh on chief executives for creating new things and doing new things on the fly.
Here's my question for you, though. I mean, and I think I'm a little concerned about the amount of stimulus. I mean, we're at $833 billion just on the SBA thing now, just because we topped it off today. We were we had $349 billion to start off with. We just topped it off with a $484 billion, top off to the thing, which I think we needed. But look, here's the law of unintended consequences here when this stuff happens. And in the city of San Diego, we've got Mike Hess Brewing coming on. I mean, craft brew here in San Diego has taken the place of the aerospace industry, which took the place of the fishing fleets here in San Diego. It creates a Super Bowl per year of economic activity, as well as all the people that it employs, and it's a big deal. But if you think in turn, and I know that many of these brewers had to get a paycheck protection program loan to keep their employees, which obviously keeps people spending money and which goes to local GDP. If you'd asked me yesterday, I would have said that we would be going through a hockey stick type recovery on the economy and a V-shaped recovery in the stock market. And I still believe the stock market's going to do that. I know you and I depart there a little bit, but I also think, though, that we could be looking at a lazy L-shaped recovery or a square root shaped recovery, because people don't want to go back to work when they're making more money on unemployment.
Well, that is one dynamic. One reason why I'm not as bullish on the market or the economy as you are is a couple of things. First of all, the world economy is not going to recover nearly as fast as the U.S. economy. Mm-hmm. It was already in trouble. Most of those governments had already done all the fiscal, quote, stimulus they could do. So this won't be an export-led recovery. That's number one. And number two, throughout the country, you have all of these governments at the city, state, or city and county level throughout the country who won't get bailouts, who will want to raise taxes, and that will tend to dampen the economy as well. So I see this as a longer recovery. And keep in mind, whenever Gavin Newsom says everybody can open their doors, a lot fewer people will be opening their doors.
Sure.
And that matters to landlords who have empty storefronts and the like. So I'm on the other hand, where else are you going to put your money besides the market? And you saw today, or I'm sorry, this week, these days blend into each day, right?
I know.
You saw this week that the market, even though they passed this bill, even though Trump signed the bill, the market did not jump on that news. Yeah. So I continue to say, you're a little bit more bullish on the market than I am. You think the market has factored in the weakness of the economy. I think they've underfactored it. Look, there's a lot of work to be done. After 9/11, which was a much smaller event, it took several years for the economy and a big tax cut to get on track.
So let me ask you this, because let me tell you why I think the economy is going to go faster. Because we've never seen a federal government put so much stimulus in at the velocity in which we're putting stimulus in. Now, I realize there's other side effects to that, but it doesn't affect recovery. So I think with the amount of money coming in, I think we recover on a hockey stick and then flat. And the reason I'm saying that we're going to recover on a hockey stick and then flat is because the flat's going to come from when we realize we have hyperinflation. Because I think we're flooding the market with dollars right now.
Yeah, a couple of things related to that. There is going to be less businesses, so I'm not sure how robust that will be. This is, as you know, a stark contrast to what the government did in response in 1932 when it raised taxes, cut off trade, and let the money supply shrink by 31%. We're doing as best we can the total, or more than we can, the total opposite of that. So for that reason, I don't see us hitting a depression. It's just that when we come out of this, the people are going to be cautious. They're not going to run back into major concerts, football games, alike. Will get there
until we feel safe, right?
Yes, and who knows how long that will be. So, but again, when the other thing is these governments, when they start raising taxes on a weak economy, and right now we're in a deflationary period. And look, we've been saying for years, and Milton Friedman taught us when we were growing up, that this allowing the money supply to go hog wild like they are is going to lead to this inflation. It hasn't happened to date, and I don't think it's going to jump in the next 2 to 3 years, because the world economy is going to be so weak that we're more in a deflationary period than a CPI inflationary period.
Yeah. I have to ask you this, and I tell people this all the time. This does feel like 2008, 2009, but not for the same reasons. So we didn't bail out. We're not here as a result of some bad actors on Wall Street or bad bankers. We're here because we shut this thing down on purpose. But you're absolutely right. Not everyone's going back to work. But what happened back in 2008, 2009, as you have well pointed out too, I think you have an addition to this, but as I always have said, people reinvented themselves one way or the other. They either went back to school or they started new businesses. And I think that's one of the reasons our economy is doing as good as it is, because many of those newly found entrepreneurs back in 2009 are contributing to the economy as we see it, as we saw it up until March of this year. Do you think sort of the same thing's going to happen? There's going to be, because look at, just like I said, here in Southern California, roughly 2/3 of restaurants have closed. You're not going to see 66% of restaurants open. There's going to be some attrition. Same thing is, to your point just now, you're going to see the same thing happen with people going back to work. Not everybody's going back to work. Not everybody's going back to the same jobs. And some people, look at the lady that cuts my hair is thinking, you know what? I'm changing it all up. And I don't think she's the only one thinking that way. Do you, Tom? Do you think there's going to be a little bit of a renaissance of entrepreneurship again?
Sully, I love you, but no one should base their future on cutting your hair.
That was just anecdotal. That was just.
There's not enough hair to do a business.
That was just anecdotal, though. Well, she's as close to Johnny Lunchbucket as I've ever seen. Hang on, I'm going to keep you over for a second. Hold on a second.
Okay,
stay right
good.
there. Tom Del Beccaro joining us from the Divided Era, and he's I only take my advice for financial things from the hair person. What are you talking about? I want to know though. Do you think there's going to be? And I'd love to hear your comments too. In fact, when I do this show on Monday night here, I'm going to take your phone calls. I want you to think of anything any questions you might have for me. One of the questions is, don't you think there's going to be a bit of an entrepreneurship renaissance here, or an education renaissance, much like people reinvented themselves back then? I believe the same sort of things are going to happen again. All right, Tom Del Beccaro continues with us on San Diego Business Weekend. Also going to have Mike Hess from Mike Hess Brewing. And of course, the mayor, Kevin Faulconer, joins us later in the program. News Radio 600 KOGO.
Well, what am I supposed to do? Yeah. Well, if I give you my
News Radio 600 KOGO. Welcome to your weekend, San Diego Business Weekend. I'm Sully. Be sure to join me Monday nights for our Right Now series at 8 p.m. here on News Radio 600 KOGO. I'll be taking all of your comments and calls into the radio station to answer questions about the economy and your 401k. And everything else that's going on. Of course, tonight on the air with Sully, Little Tommy, Rusty Nails over on KUSI. That's tonight at 5 p.m. Tom Del Beccaro joins us once again, regular contributor to BigBizShow.com, regular contributor to Fox Business and Fox News. Of course, his book, The Divided Era. Tom, do you think we're going to see a renaissance in entrepreneurship and education coming out of this from the people that were de-seated from their jobs?
Well, we already are. Just take my industry, the legal industry. It was common belief that in order to handle mediations with, between combatants, that you had to be in the same room. and yet Zoom mediations are taking off. There's already people questioning whether they need as much commercial space as they do. So in this computer age, you can expect pretty fast developments. And so, yes, 100% that the economy is going to be changing. It's going to accelerate things. It's going to kill off the large restaurant in favor of food delivery, all of these type of things. So, yes, I think the relatively freeness of the American economy will allow it to have great innovation. I have spoken to a lot of doctors who are talking about not necessarily bringing patients in, but using Skype and other means to do this. So yes, I expect a burst of new ideas, but of course, new ideas in a dynamic economy displace people and sometimes take longer to pick up. But let's face it, we have more people working today because of computer than not. When we decried long ago in the 1900s that the horseless carriage would kill off an industry, right. And yet obviously the automobile industry is what, 22% of the nation's economy.
Yeah, and by the way, oil and gas is 20% of both the Dow and the S&P. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not going anywhere.
And on that point, you saw that oil fields are being shut down. So we still have a rocky road to go. I still think we'll be in the 23,000 range, but I know you're more bullish by November.
You and I are about 3,000 points apart. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Tom Del Beccaro, The Divided Era. You can go to tomdel.com. I would suggest following him. He's a smart guy, understands the intersection of business and politics as things go on. I want to talk to Mike Hess shortly here. To talk about the San Diego brewing industry, because he's one of the guys that has successfully pivoted from just brewing beer to helping out with the hand sanitizer. But the economic impact of breweries in San Diego County is something that you need to really pay attention to, because look, nationwide the craft beer industry is $2.2 billion. And it's what's really interesting is how San Diego has just embraced craft beer. Look, San Diego ranks as the top county in the nation with close to 160 craft breweries here in town. The economic impact is close to $1 billion. The number represents about twice the output of the San Diego Zoo as comparison. Okay. They contribute over, $150 million in taxes. Philanthropy is close to $6 million in the craft beer industry. Look, this is one of those industries, much like the fishing industry was, and much like the aerospace industry. We can't live without the brewery industry here. And the fact that they've been able to pivot themselves into making beer that they're still making, but also to helping out the COVID epidemic is really interesting. Mike Hess from Mike Hess Brewing, who I consider to be a friend, great beer. I mean, I'm a Grapefruit Solace fan. Although, Mike, I have to tell you, when I bought Grapefruit Solace the other day, and it didn't have the Mike can. What's the deal there?
Yeah.
What happened?
Hey, Sully, thanks for having me on.
First of all, are you filming for Wolverine? Is that what's going on here? You used to have no hair, and now you look like Hugh Jackman. What's happening?
I'm trying my best. Well, I was growing the hair out for our St. Baldrick's head shaving event, which we of course had to postpone because of the COVID thing. So I don't know. I'm just going to go with it until we can open back up again.
All right. Very good. Hey, let me ask you something. How are you guys doing as a brewery? Everybody safe and sound? And I know you had to let off a fair amount of your employees, and I'm assuming that you reached out for SBA help. How's it all going?
Yeah, actually, we're doing really well during this. We did let everybody go back on the 16th. We furloughed everyone, but when the PPP money became available, we applied, and we were one of the few breweries that were fortunate enough to get it. And we've now rehired everybody. And I heard you talking about our, sanitizer and working on the COVID issue, and we're packaging sanitizer like crazy. So now we have a lot of team members packaging sanitizer.
Okay, so for the rest of us that are addicted to your beer, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like, Mike Hess beer, Mike knows, because we play their Hess Fest every year as a band, and we supported them quite a bit, and he supports us with giving us great content and good beer. Yeah. How do you turn beer into sanitizer? I think that's the big question no one's asked yet.
Well, I don't know if turning beer into sanitizer is the big issue. The big issue actually is has to do with packaging.
Really?
That's why there's so much shortage, actually, I think, of sanitizer in the marketplace, because as the country has outsourced so many things, we also outsource bottles. And
wow.
So right now we brought 44,000 bottles in. Turns out that was not enough. We've got more coming now from if you can believe it, from China, so we can package the sanitizer.
Well, look, China's the biggest exporter, biggest manufacturer in this world of things. I don't think that's ever going to stop. I certainly think us having all of our antibiotics manufactured there is probably going to stop. But look, so you have more people wanting to buy your sanitizer and nothing to put it in now until these bottles get here. Is that what I'm hearing?
I've got we have about 11,000 bottles on hand left out of the 44 that we bought.
Wow.
So to answer your question, we've sold about 30,000 bottles of sanitizer in almost 3 weeks.
Hey, will you keep this as a business model once things get whatever the new normal is going to be? Will you keep this as a business model as well as brewing beer?
I don't think so.
That's an honest answer. Hey, listen, So you operate some tasting rooms. I know you've got a wonderful tasting room coming up in Imperial Beach. And of course, you've got the one on Grimm. You've got a number of, what's this going to look like going forward I mean, you're basically serving folks. Let's say we get the all clear. I know you guys, listen, I've been every corner of your places. I mean, you guys have the highest standards that there can be for safety and product safety, as well as employee safety and consumer experience safety. What's it going to look like, in your opinion, going forward?
Man, I hope that it doesn't take long for us to get back to what normal used to look like. I know that we've talked a lot about social distancing standards and spacing out tables. That's in some cases counter our model, because we have a lot of long group beer garden style tables, and I hope that we can get back to that. It might take a little while to transition. I think the public is going to have to get through to feel comfortable to be able to do that.
Yeah. Mike Hess is the founder and chief brewing officer of Mike Hess Brewing here in San Diego, and just one of the pioneers in the brewing industry here in San Diego. And Mike, I guess the other thing too, the economy of scale, they can't have you guys open up at 50% capacity unless you're paying 50% rent and 50% food costs and 50% beer costs, 50% labor costs. Right. It just doesn't work, right? I mean, as far as the hospitality industry as a whole comes into San Diego, is there a way to even do that?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. We have had discussions with fellow tenants. We have a shopping center location up in Walnut Creek. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the tenants have gotten together with the landlord and said, is the model for the rent price that we're paying in dollars per square foot the right rent rate, given the fact that people may not come back out and use the spaces the way that we were all used to? It's a lot of dining there. Yeah. And we also have the brewery set up where people are sitting, table to shoulder to shoulder at a bar or at our group tables. So,
well, Mike, here's the other thing too, though. Think about this. There's guys like me and you that are clawing at the door trying to get out, right? I mean, there's some people who want to be out. So it's not all. I don't think. Look, if the county gave us an all safe, let me just tell you how it looks like in the radio studio and the TV studio. If the county gave us an all clear to go out tomorrow, me and Rusty Nails and Tommy are out tomorrow. Actually, let me back that up. Me and Tommy are out, or me and Rusty are out tomorrow. Okay. Tommy is 6 weeks away. Chris Janicus, our director, he's 6 months away from if the CDC and the county says we're safe. I think everybody has a different level of feeling. I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. I don't think it's going to be as fast as people think, though, either.
Yeah, and I've got that mixed sort of reaction even here on my crew. We have some of the folks here who insist on wearing all the PPE all the time. And we have others who, they wear gloves when we're doing work where it's required, but by and large, they're not wearing masks because they don't need to, because we're we're socially distanced at work. So Some people are, like you said, different ends of the spectrum here, even than my work crew.
Hey, Mike, is the way you guys process, I don't know if that's the right word, produce beer, have to change going forward? Is there going to be anything different about that, or are you still able to? Because I mean, you guys live in a pretty sanitized environment already. I mean, I don't know how much different it could be.
Beer quality, tank sanitation, line sanitation, all that stuff. This is all stuff that we've been doing all along anyway. You can't put beer into a package any other way anyway. Otherwise it will spoil. So it doesn't change anything that we've done in production. And in fact, we're busier than ever. Our can game, that is putting beer into cans and selling it into the market, was strong before COVID. It's even stronger now. We've actually hired salespeople. We're selling more beer now than we ever have.
That's good news. Will you please put my can together for my grapefruit solace, please? I need it.
Well, the problem is the manufacturer. They shut down that
Well,
product.
we're going to fix that. I need you to make a phone call. Mike Hess Brewing. Go visit him, please. Well, when you can, but you can go visit him in most grocery stores and liquor stores. Thanks, Mike. Coming up, Mayor Kevin Faulconer joins us to talk about reopening some parks, reopening San Diego, helping out small business, and the like. It is San Diego Business Weekend. News Radio 600 Kogo.
Your figure's locked in a groove.
News Radio 600 Kogo, Sully here. Welcome to your weekend. It's San Diego Business Weekend. Again, catch me every morning with Ted and LaDonna on San Diego Morning News and over at KUSI. Good morning, San Diego. Speaking of KUSI, our new show on the air with Sully, Little Tommy, and Rusty Nails tonight, 5 p.m. on KUSI. You're going to like it. We have Eddie Papani from Rock 105 joining us, telling us he actually interviewed Ozzy Osbourne. It's good to hear about that story. It's going to be pretty cool. And then I want to remind you, Monday night at 8 o'clock, I'll be at this chair once again here on News Radio 600 Kogo, taking all of your calls and comments with respect to the economy, this coronavirus, what we can expect in the stock market and such. So that's Monday night at 8 o'clock. So if you have questions, please feel free to join me. As he's been so generous with his time, our mayor, the Honorable Kevin Faulconer, joins us here on San Diego Business Weekend to kind of give us an overview again. Mayor Faulconer, thanks so much for taking time out of your weekend to spend some time with us, sir.
Sully, happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
So a big week this week. The beginning of the week. I mean, you sort of alluded to this last week, where Monday, on a responsibly limited basis, you opened up parks and trails and such. Talk about that a little bit, and what's the go forward on that?
Yeah, no, look, it's really all been in conjunction with San Diegans continuing to do the right thing, and as we are flattening this curve, making sure that we are continuing the social distancing, but also, beginning to allow some of the activity. Neighborhood parks are important. I mean, it's for our physical health and safety, obviously mental well-being, and so we've done that on a gradual, limited basis. It was a good week. San Diegans get it. They've been following the guidelines, and that allows us to continue to do more in the future if our public health officials say it's safe. And so that's that is incredibly important, and that was also the genesis of the plans that we put together with our lifeguards and our other coastal city mayors in terms of how we would ultimately do a phased opening of the beaches, and once we get the okay again from County Public Health on the water access. So I'm really trying to ensure that we have a consistent message, that it's based with public health and our public safety professionals, lifeguard driven in the case of the beaches, but do it gradually and safely. With one goal: let's keep beating back this virus and doing the right thing.
What's interesting is, speaking of beaches, one thing I've learned over the years, and one thing I've witnessed for myself as a San Diegan, lifelong San Diegan, is that the common good is to legislate to the lowest common denominator, and meaning that if we open our beaches and we see kind of the scenes we saw in Jacksonville, we're going to be in trouble again, right? I mean, we have to trust that our health department's going to say it's okay to do so, but we also have to have some responsibility here as citizens, though, don't we?
Well, we do, and I think the good news is San Diegans get it, and we do not want to see what we've seen in other parts of the country, obviously, and that's why the phased approach was so important, and why, for me, This plan was developed by lifeguards, right? There are public safety professionals
Sure.
who are going to out there keeping us safe, and we want to make sure that the plan keeps them safe because they're the folks interacting with the public. And so I think that, that step 1, step 2, step 3 is exactly the right way to do it because it allows us to continue those gains if folks keep doing the right things. If folks don't do the right things, then you go backwards. But nobody wants that to happen. And so I think it was a good week for the neighborhood parks opening up, people keeping that social distancing because we're all in this together. We've got to do our part, and everybody, it takes everybody. And I say that so far it's been phenomenal response from San Diegans that want to get out there, but they want to do so responsibly because that's what keeps us going in the future as we continue to flatten and get over the curve.
This week it was reported by the union that we could receive somewhere in the tune of $250 million of federal government money from the stimulus. Is that accurate reporting, number one? And number two, where would that money go in your opinion first, and how does that process work?
Yeah, we actually did receive the money, the stimulus money, about $248 million, and we're actually working through the restrictions on how you use it. It has to be COVID-related, not supposed to, refill, backfill revenue loss, et cetera. But all those discussions are happening right now for the federal government. So getting those dollars in was a good thing. It's a very good step. And so we're going to be working on, how we use those dollars because we have a lot of expenses that are
Sure.
COVID-related. As we talked about last week, Sully, I released a budget that was unlike any budget I've had to release in terms of the drop of revenue from sales tax and from TOT tax. We've never had a month without any conventions, without any tourism, without eating in restaurants.
Right.
So all of that economic generator, that's real, and obviously the impact particularly on our small business. So I'm going to make the decisions that I think keep us not only going, but really focuses on our core city services, police, fire, water, sewer, trash. That's where we have to put our focus. But also making some of these decisions now, because even though we get some dollars from Washington, D.C., those are one-time dollars.
Right.
And I've got to be making the decisions that are going to keep the city, on the right track past just, this year. And so, we don't know when a lot of these ongoing revenues are going to come back to the levels that we've had before. We're going to work like heck to make sure they do in a safe manner. But I want to make sure I'm setting us up for success so we can be one of those cities that addresses it head on, but then also is one of those cities that is ready to reap the benefits when the economy comes back because we've made those decisions.
Well, and by the way, Kevin Faulconer, our mayor, joins us here on News Radio 600 Kogo. I'll tell you, one of the best things that you did in the very beginning is small business relief. Because if you think in terms of the spike in applications that happened, you think in terms of even the federal government has put so much money towards small business, it's finally realized that small business is the biggest taxpayer in this country and this county, the biggest employer. That was one of the biggest things we had to do, and we moved very quickly. How's that program going? Because I keep getting great emails from small businesses across the county saying that they're alive because of some of those city dollars that came their way.
Well, no, and look, you've been talking about it, but you've understood that for a long time. How important small businesses are, and how important consumer confidence is to our economy, particularly in cities.
Indeed.
And so, we tried to act very quickly, even before some of the state and federal programs, because look, we recognize that everything we do can keep these businesses afloat, so employees have a job to come back to. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is critical, because if we lose that infrastructure, then we're going to lose our ability to quickly get back as quick as we can. And so it's been a program that has been phenomenal. We need more of it. I mean, the applications were just through the roof.
Sure.
We got some other corporations to help out now as well, just, besides the city dollars. So it is great to see folks understand how important small business is. The only ad I put into the budget for the budget that I just introduced was more dollars for Small Business Relief Fund. That's how critically important it is. Even though we're cutting a variety of other things, we have to do everything we can for our small businesses, because that's the fabric of who we are in this city. They need our help first. They need our help second. They need our help third. And I'm going to continue to do that, because that's what will serve us well. Again, back to that infrastructure from an economy standpoint, we need places for people to go back to work. that's part of the genesis also, if I just jump in, because when we started with the county, our small business economic recovery group, and we have business associations on board. And we just had our second meeting on Friday. It's about what are the safe strategies that we can do to reopen, how are we going to use that stimulus money effectively, what are the new programs that we need, either at the state or local, what are the partnerships that we can do to have resiliency, to have infrastructure, that we're ready to go as a San Diego region to open back up.
Yeah, the big piece of that, of course, is how we feel safe as citizens here, and I think we've gone a long way to change our habits. I think what it comes down to is public perception, and I think we've done to your guys' credit in the city offices. I think we've done everything we can to make sure we've done everything by the book. From one end of the spectrum to the other, you've got the people making the economy. Then we have the homeless. You guys have opened up a ton of city property, and what's really interesting as a guy in the news is the lack of stories about homeless problems over the last 6 weeks, either with respect to infection, with respect to the typical homeless stuff. We got ahead of that. Those are lessons that we can learn going forward, are they not?
Yeah, we worked really hard on that, and that's the big reason why we opened up the convention center, because we needed to make sure that we had the physical distancing, which you couldn't get in the bridge shelters that we already had up and running with bunk beds. And so, to not only transfer that entire operation of our shelters, which was 800, but now we're over 1,000 individuals as we're continuing to get folks off the street. We've had one goal, Sully, which is to make it safe. To make it healthy. We have our public health nurses there. Everybody who is there is getting their temperature checked daily. Everybody is getting the testing done for one goal. Let's keep people safe. Let's get them off the street. But secondarily, and almost primary importance, we have moved all of our resources there and our housing navigators, all the different organizations, also into the convention center, because I'm looking at this as an opportunity. How do we get people connected with housing faster? Now that we have everybody in one location, let's cut down some of the bureaucracy. Let's get the Housing Commission there. Let's get the VA there. Let's get city, county, state, and let's look at every single person and say, what is the barrier from keeping that person to getting that VASH voucher, to getting that housing that they need? I will tell you, there's a great spirit there. There's a lot of momentum, and it's been something that I think can represent the best of our city and our region coming together to not only keep people safe, who are some of our most vulnerable, but again, to tackle one of the biggest things that we have in San Diego, which is homelessness and housing, and try to create a new dynamic and paradigm around that with a sense of urgency that says, let's get people.
Well, and look at, you've done it, and you were heading in that direction prior to this, and I think we've, I shouldn't say we, you have, with your efforts, figured that piece of it out. And I'll tell you, as a news guy, we're not hearing anything about it. Mayor Kevin Faulconer, thank you so much for swinging by once again this weekend. San Diego Business Weekend, News Radio 600 KOGO.
Know what to tell you, try.